Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 126. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora from SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for tuning in this Tuesday. Steelers Nation, Dave, a whole lot going on in the sports world right now. You got baseball, you got the Pirates with a crazy one yesterday. Josh Bell, 3 home runs, All-Star break coming up. Their NBA free agency's been as crazy as ever. Pretty quiet in Steelers land and in the NFL, but as I guess we've said all offseason long compared to years past, you take a quiet offseason.
Yeah, you know, a year ago at this time we were into that once again talking about will Bell or won't Bell get signed to a long-term deal. We've done that for 2 years in a row, and geez, I'm trying to remember what else we had going on. Maybe something Antonio Brown related to the furniture thing. I don't know what when that thing finally hit with the whole furniture off the balcony thing, but yeah, you know, I mean, look, it's unfortunate for us because we don't have a lot to write about this time of year. And, you know, luckily the slow period, it seemed like kind of hit us, I don't know, about a week and a half later than it normally does. Right. And, but here we are now with almost 3 weeks to go before the start of training camp. I have a feeling this 3 weeks will go by fairly quick, but, in the meantime, there's probably not going to be a lot for us to talk about, at least from a news aspect. And, you know, that's all right. Oh, by the way, too, y'all, I'm looking for your Instagram page to see where your workout videos are. I want to make sure you're staying.
I'm not going to find them.
I want to make sure you're staying in shape, ready for young Mike Tomlin wants to make sure that you show up ready to compete and healthy and all. And I'm failing to find. I'm finding a lot of Steeler players doing their workouts, but I'm not finding yours.
Well, you'll find mine when I find yours, Dave. That's how I'll put it.
I go up and down the stairs at least about 35 times a day.
Oh, well, all right, there's the new workout plan. Let me get Terrell Edmunds to incorporate that. But speaking of Edmunds, that guy looks in incredible shape. I'll have to compare and contrast maybe to previous years, but this dude is rocked up, and he's clearly ready to make the jump for his sophomore season.
Boy, you see these second-year players, and we saw last year with James Conner, right? You know, and we've seen it multiple times in the past there that these players making the body transformation. You know, you don't know what you don't know. Sometimes, you know, you can be told. And I tell you, look, this is not a big deal, but being as how I monitor Instagram quite a bit to see who's doing what and all like that, you see a lot of these second-year players hard at it. And once again, listeners, don't read anything into this, but it's one thing that I've noticed. I'm okay with players posting, you know, any kind of workout things on their Instagram accounts or whatnot. Justin Lane, I have not seen him do anything. Not that means that he's not doing it, okay? But when you look at some of kind of through all the other rookies that seem to be active, at least on the social media front, you know, it's easy to tell the ones that are indeed working. Once again, not saying that Justin Lane isn't, but it's one thing that jumped out to me thinking, oh, Lord, I hope he shows up, because, look, you'll know real quick those guys that are in shape and not in shape once they hit Latrobe, because you'll have the whole soft tissue injuries and stuff like that. Once again, I don't know that he's not. It's just one thing when going through some of these rookies that are active on social media, and he certainly is on Instagram, that you're not seeing those kind of workout videos with him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's fine. I kind of like the guys that go quietly about their business sometimes in that regard, that just do their work, don't have to post it, and then show up and kick butt in camp. But you're right. I think we talked about this maybe a month ago, Dave, that you have 9 practices in 10 days in Latrobe, and it's going to be hot, it's going to be muggy, it's going to be rainy, it's going to be a new experience, mentally, physically taxing for these guys. So if you're not in great conditioning, and we know that rookies don't always know what that means, but still, even relative to them, they have to be in great shape, better shape than they were in college, then they're not going to last in training camp, and they're going to lose out on reps. They're going to suffer injury. They're not going to make that impact. And if you get slowed down in training camp in the preseason, it's going to put you behind for the entire regular season in 9 out of 10 cases. Juju was kind of an exception where he really didn't do a whole lot in camp and preseason, a lot of injuries, but obviously had a great regular season. But for most guys, it'll really trip them up. So yeah, that's critical for the young guys and anybody, but especially the rookies.
Yeah, and look, once again, I want to emphasize that it does not mean that Justin Lane's not working out.
Right.
I'm just saying if we get to training camp and he is in that group of players that kind of struggling, missing some practices here or there, then maybe we can circle back and say, but it's just one of the crazy things in my daily look. I've got a lot more free time on my hands right now than I did, earlier in the off season there. So you kind of pick up on some of these social media habits some of these players have, and I just haven't seen him posting. Not that it means anything, but it could mean something if we circle back to this, and especially if he misses some time there. But yeah, back to Edmunds and look, I mean, there's guys that Mike Tomlin has said it for years. These second-year guys are expected to make these big jumps, and you got guys like Edmunds, you got guys like James Washington. We've already talked quite a bit about Washington losing a little bit of that weight during the offseason there, and Lord knows where he's working out this offseason. I assume probably back home. Where's he? Texas.
Texas. Yep.
Yeah.
Farmlands of Texas.
Probably back getting it done on the farm, on the family farm or whatnot there. But you definitely want to see these second-year guys make this big jump, especially guys like Edmunds and Washington. And speaking of Washington, I guess it's a good time to kind of segue into maybe a.
Look at those podcasting chops you got, Dave.
And not the kind that you ride either. Have you ever ridden one of those?
A what? A chopper?
A Segway. No.
A Segway. Oh, I didn't know where you were getting at. You said chop. I thought it was some sort of.
I'm gonna bet you never. I'm gonna bet you've never ridden a chopper.
No, I've never been on. I've been on a motorcycle once. I didn't drive it, but that wasn't a chopper. That wasn't. I was up at Sturgis, Dave.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
But what about
I've never been on a Segway now.
Oh, okay.
This isn't Paul Blart Mall Cop. I'm not going to be on a Segway. It's not.
Well, see, there we finally found a movie that you've watched. Yeah. How about that? It got us all this kind of conversation to get to a movie you watch, and it's Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Not a good one.
Yeah, not a good one at all. With Washington, we talked. What was it? It was almost I think exactly a week ago that Reggie Wayne listed, I forget how many there was, 3 or 4 wide receivers that he expected to have breakout years in 2019, and he had James Washington as one of them, and he really didn't give much of an explanation, I don't think, as to why, because he was having to rattle down however many was on his list at the time. Well, he was back on Total Access yesterday talking about Reggie Wayne, and they were talking about the Steelers and all like that, and he remains very bullish on James Washington, and goes as far as to say he expects him to be the number 2 this year. And when questioned by Lindsay, I always want to call her Lindsay Soto, she'll always be Lindsay Soto to me, Lindsay Rhodes, about why in so many words Wayne expecting Washington to be the number 2, he says, well, he should be. And then he goes on to say, I mean, that's why why 2 drafts ago they picked him in the second round with a 68th overall pick, right? This is another year under his system where he can learn to be a professional. Also another year where he can learn that offense and get on the same page with Big Ben, right? We saw little glimpses of what he can do towards the end of the season last year. Man, the last 3 games he had 129 yards total, and now that's being that's being a third receiver in that receiving group, because obviously AB was number 1 and Juju was number 2. And look, I'm me, I'm fine with him being bullish on Washington. I'm kind of bullish on Washington as well, but to go out and continue to push that James Washington's going to be the number 2, I think what Reggie Wayne's definition for a breakout season and what my definition of a breakout season for James Washington might be probably 20 to 25 catches off at this time. I mean, without a doubt, the Steelers are going to run a lot of 11 personnel, right?
Oh yeah, that'll be their base package.
All right. Now, when they run a lot of 11 personnel, we're probably going to see quite a bit of, or at least we would think we would see James Washington in the Z, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the expectation.
But even so, how many targets is he going to get out of that Z? As the season progresses, I mean, is 70 fair?
Yeah, I haven't really put a number to it. I'd have to kind of look at some old, Martavis Bryant-ish numbers and just to kind of judge it. But
I mean, 70 to me would be the high side because that's what's that divided by 16? Is that that's less than, that's a little less than 5 a game, right?
Yeah, 4.4 a game.
I mean, that to me that would be a high side would be because he's going to be running a lot of quick slants and and a lot of goes, pretty much, a lot of posts and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Martavis Bryant ran, when he was with the Steelers, but it's just hard to see him getting much more than 70 total targets. And if that's
Brian in 2015 had 92. 2017 he had 84. He wasn't playing in every single one of those games. So I think that 80 to 90 is maybe the higher end of things.
Yeah, but when he was getting, I guess we had to back up and then see who was. He had Antonio Brown there. I mean, this was pre-Juju.
Mm-hmm. There was still talent around.
So when you throw in the running backs and you throw in Vance McDonald and you throw in potentially a couple guys in Switzer and Eli Rogers, and when you throw in the fact that we hope that Ben's not having to throw the ball as many times as he did, to me, okay, let's even go 80. Let's go 80 targets. What's a catch rate on a good Z receiver going to be? It's not going to be no 60%. You know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With Washington, the deep ball might be closer to 55.
All right. So what's 55% of 80?
Math 44.
I mean, that's about what I wrote in my article, right? I put.
Is that what you had?
I put down there. Let's see where is it? To hear Wayne talk about Washington, it sounds like he's expecting a second-year wide receiver to catch 60 to 70 passes in 2019. I just can't see that happening, barring a few injuries to other wide receivers. His best season in college was his final one when he caught 74 passes for over 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns. And it's impossible to imagine him posting those kind of stats as a Z receiver with the Steelers. Earlier in the article, I have about if he can catch 35 to 40 passes for 650 to 750 yards with about 3 or more touchdowns, such stats should be considered quite acceptable based on his expected amount of playing time and times he'll be targeted. True or false?
I think generally true. I mean, we can nitpick this thing, 35 or 40. My projection.
Well, yeah, you can keep going 5 at a time and get yourself up to 60 in a hurry.
Yeah, yeah, you can. My projection roughly 44 catches. I have about maybe a little under 15 yards a catch. It puts you about 650 for the season in terms of total yards, and then 3-4 touchdowns makes sense. So we'll call it 45 or 650, and 4 touchdowns might be his a comfortable projection with him if he takes the jump that we hope and expect.
And then, you go streaking on those kind of numbers, I think. It's just to me that's a good breakout year for him.
Yep. It just has to be the vertical threat. It doesn't really matter what his final stat line is, as long as he's making several of these long combative catches down the field. He's being that vertical threat that's going to help expand the defense vertically and open up everybody else. Then that's a win in my book.
If he can have at least half the games where 60 or more yards receiving. I mean, that probably means he's caught a long one in there.
Yep.
In each game there. I mean, we saw at the end of last season. Now, it's going to be different. Going to be definitely something to watch, for you during training camp and then into the preseason. But I mean, look, he did some of those things last year in the preseason. The contested catches, now albeit against lesser competition and not as good a quarterback and all. But I mean, he showed us some of the things that we saw at Oklahoma State there. So I just think Reggie Wayne's being way, we talked last week about PFF being way too bullish. Now, I really think PFF is way over the top bullish on Sutton Smith. But I just think Reggie Wayne's a little bit too bullish on James Washington. It just feels to me like he's expecting 60 to 70 catches and, I don't know, 1,000 yards and 10 touchdown kind of numbers. And to me, I think that's projecting out there a little bit too much when it comes to Washington.
It probably is.
Go ahead.
But I think the principle is more important than the particulars. I think that he just expects a breakout season, and if Washington gets that, regardless of what the numbers end up being, I think it's a fair assessment to make, to assume that Washington's going to make that jump. So I think in Wayne's overall outlook, I think that's fair, and I sure hope it's true.
Yeah, and look, Reggie Wayne didn't put any numbers to it. But the way he's been talking him up and saying, the number 2 and all like that. Now, will there be instances perhaps when Washington's one of maybe, if they 2 wide receivers on the field at a time? Possibly, but I mean, you're just probably not going to see a lot of that overall, right?
In 2 receiver sets?
Right.
Yeah, in 2 receiver sets, I'm expecting Moncrief / Diontae Johnson to be the X and Juju to be the Z. And then when they go 3 receivers, which is going to be their base, but they're going to run 70% or so of the time, Washington will come in and Juju will kick inside. I think that you might see a lot of volatility with the receivers this year. I mean, I could see Juju having some great games. That's almost certain. But I could see him having some dud games where all the coverage rolls to him and teams just make that true concentrated effort to take Juju out of the game. And so I could see him having 3 games where he has like 3 catches for 40 yards and that's it. I can see Washington obviously being a volatile guy because he's a vertical threat. Moncrief and Diontae Johnson might be a little up and down because some rotation and play time and just getting comfort, with Ben. So I think the passing game will still be good, but I could see a lot of up and down in terms of the production from each receiver throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall Juju, especially if you listen to this podcast and you play fantasy, I think overall Juju's numbers might be okay on the season. Maybe I still struggle to say that he's going to hit 100 receptions. But the other thing that I would be worried about Juju from a fantasy aspect is the kind of the weekly average type thing. He's going to have some big games, from a fantasy point aspect, I think, where, the 30 point games where he gets a couple of touchdowns, 8 receptions, maybe 100 yards, those kind of things. But I think like you indicated, and really right out of the chute against the Patriots, man, I'm not sure he's going to have a great game because, as we've said a few times, Bill Belichick's going to do everything he can to take away a team's best weapon, and you just would have to think that he's not going to let Juju beat him, and I think you're going to see some other defenses around the league do that, as well. So what I'm saying when it comes to Juju is there's going to be some peaks and valleys, I think, in his stat sheet. A lot more so than there was in these first 2 seasons with him. Now, can the Steelers get someone else to step up? That's going to be the big thing I think that we're talking about through the first 4 weeks, and especially in that opener. Look, I'm still kind of bullish on this team in the opener. Because they are playing the Patriots early, I think that is slight advantage Steelers here. And if they can come out with a perfect offensive game plan and work around Juju being taken away, if they could get somebody like a James Washington or a Dante Moncrief, or a great effort from the run game, or something with Vance McDonald in that game. And if their defense plays well and keeps it close, I think they can win that game. That said, I'm still not expecting, if Juju goes off in that game and the Steelers win, oh, glory, glory, hallelujah.
Yeah, I think that Juju's going to be, I think he'll have a couple plays, but as you said, Belichick's whole game plan defensively will be to take him away and force If they're going to lose, the Patriots hypothetically, they're going to lose by James Washington making a great play or Diontae Johnson or Dante Moncrief. It's not going to be Juju, the known guy, beating you. So that's going to be Belichick's mentality. But yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think it's going to be a volatile season. I think Juju will still have a very good year overall because he'll have multiple huge games where they just can't stop him. But he'll have a couple of duds as well. I feel pretty confident when I say that.
Boy, did you see? I was going back watching some Toledo tape again this past week, and that did you see that route that I posted of his, that kind of that stutter and go against Nevada?
No, I didn't see that. I saw the comeback.
It was the comeback that I was talking about. It's kind of the stutter and go, and then at the top of the route, he sits down and he breaks that thing back. I guess you're not. If you didn't notice the stutter and go part of it, we probably saw a different route there. But
yeah, I guess that's something else.
What the thing that sticks out to me is, and we heard Joe Hayden talk during the OTAs and all like that, how he's a good one and how he's a good crisp route runner and all like that. You go back and you see little instances such as that, and it shouldn't be hard to find that. If those you listening aren't haven't seen it yet in my Twitter feed there. Boy, he does a great job, and once he gets to the top of his routes at full speed, once he starts to get into that breakdown position and sitting down, it doesn't take him long to get stopped and in and out of his breaks. And that's one thing that you learn over time is evaluating players to kind of look for. And I think that's who's the speedster out of Mississippi this year?
A.J. Brown?
No, the other one.
DK Metcalf?
Yeah, Metcalf.
I wouldn't call him a speed. Well, I mean, he ran fast, yeah, but he's okay. Fair point.
I mean, he's a field stretcher, right? I mean, he was a go guy.
Yeah. I just think of a different profile as Diontae Johnson, but okay.
Right. I mean, I'm not nowhere. I'm not comparing him to Johnson, but I'm comparing him to the aspect that I've already seen some footage from the from their off-season program and him trying to run those comebacks. and you do that. I mean, it's taking him like 7 yards to get stopped and out of his break, and that's much too long.
Mm-hmm.
And you compare that to a guy like Diontae Johnson, and boy, you really see the world difference. One of the things that you go back and you look at some of the old, somewhere on YouTube, I think there's some stuff of Jerry Rice doing some training and people commenting on it. And Jerry Rice was never regarded as one of the fastest wide receivers in the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the way that he was able to route run, break down, sit down, get in and out of his routes made him even that more dangerous, And look, we've seen it with a guy like Antonio Brown. I mean, you don't have to be the fastest guy. If you learn the little nuances of route running, and especially if you're good, quick at sitting down and getting in and out of your breaks, you can have quite a bit of separation at the NFL level. And it's just one of the things I think that stuck out to me going back through Diontae Johnson's tape last week is how good he is at the top of his routes.
Best receivers in open one, Dave. So if you can separate and create space, which is so tough to do at the NFL, doesn't matter what 40 time you had, what your vert was. If you get open, quarterbacks are going to find you. You're going to make plays. So I think that's what attracted them to Diontae Johnson. They said, Kevin Colbert said the story a million times after the draft. In our scouting report, Phil Kreidler said the word natural like 5 times and just kept repeating he's a natural receiver in everything that he does. And so I think I've said this before that I think he'll have less of a learning curve than, say, James Washington last year, because I think he's probably a more well-rounded and more advanced receiver at this point in his career than James Washington was as a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, here's that. I just DM'd you that to make sure you could see the route I was talking about.
All right, let me pull it up here.
Give that a look there.
This is against Nevada last year?
Yeah, Nevada last year. It's Nevada. It's not Nevada.
All right, excuse me. Yeah.
I learned that when it's that Southern slang. We used to say it the same way, but people corrected me quickly when I got here.
Yeah, people have to watch it. Maybe you can include this in the podcast link or something. But yeah, I also like the separation, but him working back to the football too. Because so many rookie receivers, they just turn and they just stop their feet. And that allows the DB to retrace their steps and be able to jump the route or impact the catch. But he's running back to the football and makes a play. So those little details in Diontae Johnson's game, that's impressive. I think it's a high IQ guy. Athletic guy, maybe more than what his numbers will suggest, and certainly someone that can create space. And those are all really good things to work with as a rookie.
I mean, and you see the top of the route. You see how quick he sits down, and breaks out of that. And like you said, him working back as much as he did too is something that's huge at the NFL level. I mean, there's about 3 good takeaways on that one route right there. You know, the stutter and go is excellent. He gets the cornerback to flip his hips. You know.
Because he's selling speed, you're selling that when you have that stutter and go, that corner's taking double move because he just stuttered. Now he's still going, so now that corner's opening his hips because Diontae Johnson's at full speed, so the corner has to respect that, and that creates a space underneath. I think a lot of underneath route running is about selling vertical. AB did that really, really well. Where if you get that corner to think that you're going deep, he's going to open his hips, and then you can break down and separate, and you've won the route, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that one route alone really stuck out to me from several aspects there, and just another reason. And I know I've watched I know that I've watched previously the Nevada game, but I might have missed that particular play there. I'll tell you another thing that sticks out when you go back into his and look at his 2018 tape, and then go back immediately in the same day and go watch a lot of the targets from 2017 season. And I know we've mentioned this probably before, but the quarterback play in 2017 was so much better. That was the quarterback that ended up latching on, I think, briefly with the Ravens, and even played in the AAF league. What was his name? Do you remember?
Tip of my tongue, I think. Logan Woodside.
There you go. That's it. Boy, you want to talk about the difference the quarterback makes. I mean, Diontae Johnson, his numbers dropped. His receiving numbers dropped his last year compared to his year before, 2017. And you go back and you watch a lot of his targets in 2018, you'll know why. I mean, there was either miscommunication or poor throws or both or what have you. The quarterback really failed to be able to get him the football. And even on this clip that I sent you of this route against Nevada last year, that ball's got to get out quicker there.
Yep. Yeah, Johnson waited way too long for that ball.
So that's just a little instance of that. So I think if you go back and if you watch Johnson's 2017 tape and then add a little bit of a maturation to his overall route running, that's the player that you're getting right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a surprising pick, but the more you learn about him and the more about how the league viewed him as a 3rd, 4th round pick, we know Tampa was going to take him about 8 or so spots after had the Steelers not selected him. I think it makes a lot of sense. And then he's going to help you in the return game as well. I'm really excited to see what he does in the return game, punt and kick. He can do both. He's done both. I think he's done, kicks more than punts? Was that his background, Dave? I forget the numbers. He did one more than the other.
Yeah, I'll have to pull it up. That sounds right. But I tell you, too, and I was going through, I don't know if it was the Nevada game or one against maybe Eastern Michigan, where he made some bad decisions, fielding some punts on, in the area, and even the announcer said something on that and all. So I would be surprised if they come out and shoot with him as any kind of a return guy initially.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll get reps, though, won't he? I mean, he'll get a look, even just as a backup for an injury, right?
Right. I'm just saying, being the team's starting returner.
Sure. Well, if hypothetically Switzer doesn't make the team, or if he gets hurt or something, who's your kick returner? I mean, punt returner, you could argue Eli, but, I mean, Eli's pretty middle-of-the-road return guy, and then kick returner seems pretty wide open.
Yeah, I'm just telling you from what I've seen on the tape. I mean, they would have to correct a lot of that real quick. And with him being a rookie, I don't know if that's something they would do right out of the chute with him.
Yeah. Well, I think they like the return value or background, and maybe they can at least get to there. So I think that's part of the reason why. Because, I mean, they sent Danny Smith to his pro day. I mean, they didn't do that just for nothing.
He only had 17 punt returns, 343 yards, but he did take 2 of them back to the house.
Yeah.
79 kickoffs. So I feel we have a lot better shot of seeing Diontae Johnson returning kickoffs during his rookie season than we do punts. You would think maybe either Ryan Switzer or Eli Rogers, one of those two would be the punt return guy, at least to start things off. I just don't think they're going to have a lot of confidence in him as a punt returner right out of the chute.
All right. Fair enough. Dave, let's move on to James Conner, because is he promoting something? Is that why he's in the media airwaves?
He is. He's promoting that Polaris slingshot. That's what you need. Okay. Have you Googled that thing?
I saw it in the background. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
is that engine powered, or is that like?
Oh yeah, it's like a motorcycle / Y'all check that thing out. It's pretty sharp.
Not a sponsor. Hashtag. To be clear. James Conner was talking to the media, talking about the season. Dave, you wrote up his article. What did you learn from James Conner?
Boy, a lot of things here when it comes to him, and unfortunately, when he made his media rounds, he got asked a lot of the same questions. So you're going to see that, but he also got asked a few different ones by a few different outlets as well too. Look, he, in so many words, he admitted that this is a tighter unit, without AB and Bell being there. They're playing for each other. They seem to be playing more for each other this offseason, that it's all about relationships, in that aspect. So, look, it's been quieter, and I don't think it's a mistake this offseason that really kind of the faces of the organization have been James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster, right? I mean, speaking of which, Juju's over in London right now, taking part in the NFL Academy that's going on over there this week with promotion and all like that. I don't think it's a mistake that these two guys are sort of out in the forefront, being kind of representing the franchise right now. Mm-hmm. He was asked about his role. There's been a lot of speculation about James Conner and running back by committee, and how many touches is he going to lose this year with Jalen Samuels and of course Benny Snell Jr. being in the fold now. And I really don't think James Conner knows yet exactly, and he really put it best. He, saying, look, it goes week to week sometimes. The game plan will be different each week. I know I'll be a big part of it and have a big role. As far as specifics, we don't play it like that. Earlier, he says, I'll have a similar role. I'm healthy, first and foremost. I'm 100% healthy now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, talking about his expected workload. But we got talent in that room. We got Jalen Samuels, who's a tremendous receiver, a talented runner. We got Benny Snell. We know the work that he did at Kentucky. He's a hard-bodied runner, so all those guys will get touches. It'll be fun this year just seeing those other guys being successful. Still my takeaway is yes, James Conner is going to be the bell cow. Whatever, then you have to draw off your percentages of what you think he's going to get, from that aspect moving forward. Now, he had 270 total touches last year. I mean, could he hit 250 to 270 in a 16-game schedule versus playing 13? Possibly. I think maybe 240 to 250 might be target touches for Conner, right?
Yeah, I think we've had this conversation before. I think that 240.
What's 240 divided by 16?
I'm going to start billing you for these math questions. 15.
I mean, we think 15. He can get 15 touches a game, right?
Yeah, I think he can still be around the 270 mark this year if he plays a full 16-game season. He did 270 in 13 games last year. I think he can do 270 in 16.
And wasn't it technically 270 in 12 and a half games?
Yeah, because he got hurt, I think, late first half against the Chargers, if I remember that correctly. So I think he can do 270 and 16. Jalen Samuels will have a role. Benny Snell may have a niche role. James Conner is still going to be largely the guy, and I still think they're going to. Because when he was healthy, the dude played really well. He's a well-rounded back. There's nothing he can't do within the schematics of this offense. He should hit 270 again, provided he plays a full season.
Right. I just don't think you want to get into a situation where you're bumping 320.
Sure.
With him.
No, yeah, no one's saying that. I don't think anyone's arguing the idea that's going to happen.
But there has been so much talk about quote unquote running back by committee and what that might mean. It's not going to be probably as much as what that word conjures up in your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other thing with Connor is that you probably don't have to work him as hard in the preseason and camp the way that you did his first 2 years because he's coming in a lot more established this year. So that'll reduce some of the wear and tear that's going to, that you had those first 2 years because his rookie year and then last year you didn't kind of prove it as being the starter without Bell. This year you kind of know what you have in James Conner.
Where do you have Connor from a fantasy aspect? Where, have you?
I mean, I'm not probably the best guy to ask about that stuff. I think he'll have a good year. I think he can probably be a top 15, right around that 13, maybe between 10 and 15 if I had to guess. But I haven't thought about it at all.
I mean, he could definitely. I mean, if he gets the rushes, I mean, he could approach 1,000 yards in rushing again, right? I mean, you would still think it's going to be kind of. It wouldn't be a slam dunk that he'd be 1,000-yard rusher, right?
No, I'm definitely not a slam dunk. I think there's a good chance. I guess from a fantasy aspect, I do worry about maybe if Benny Snell takes away some of those touchdowns, he could be a vulture where he takes away a 3rd and goal, situation. I could see that happening. But that might be the only thing that kind of brings his numbers down is can he repeat the high amount of touchdowns that he had last year? It might be a little more difficult this time around.
Right. But I mean, he 400, 500 yards receiving shouldn't be out of the question. At least you would hope I mean, if he's getting the touches, at least 900 yards rushing. So, I mean, he could be a third. I think high side with him at most would be 1,500 total yards from the scrimmage, right?
That sounds reasonable.
And then, of course, I have to watch the touchdowns and all like that. But moving on to kind of some of the other things that he talked about, kind of the things that he wants to get better at this year. And he goes every category, to be honest. He goes on to say, just watching my game tape, I need to focus on my speed, my knee drive, everything, ball security, pass pickup, everything. Ball security, boy, he fumbled 4 times last year. Two of those got away from him, and one against the Browns in the opener. But that certainly let the Browns back in the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Then you had the Denver one, later in the year, which was at the end of that big run. That was a killer.
Right, that was a crusher as well too. So if he can X out them fumbles this year, if he can do a little bit better job in pass protection, I think the knee drive, the speed. I mean, I understand saying that you want to work on that and all, but I mean, I think that's there now, and if he could just improve in the fumbles and the pass pickup area, going to be a lot more productive season, obviously.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else from Connor, or was that kind of the bulk? He's got the mullet coming back. That was
nice. He says he's got the mullet coming back there. So fear not, the mullet will be coming back here. He also says, look, he didn't make no guarantees. He was kind of smart. He almost pinned himself into a corner there when talking about the loss of AB and Le'Veon Bell. He at one point he's quoted as saying, I'm not guaranteeing nothing, but I think we have a great chance of going all the way. That's what we play for, and that's why we show up every day. That's the ultimate goal, to get the ring. I know a lot of people don't think that we can do it with the pieces that we lost, just counting us out. We don't mind it, though. We know that they're counting us out, but that's why I said we're going to shock them, because I don't think they're expecting us to do what we're about to do this year.
Yeah, hey, that's the mentality that you want from any player, right? Nothing wrong with that.
He also had some, obviously, some very positive things to say about Devin Bush in the sentence or two that he had to say about him. And he pretty much, we've heard speed and agility, and he's fast, that kind of thing. Well, the thing that stuck out most about Bush to James Conner is how passionate a player he is. He says, man, the first thing I noticed was even watching his college tape, he's just passionate. And I think you've got to find people who really love football. A lot of people are doing it for a lot of other reasons besides the love of the game. And with Devin, man, he really just loves the game. So, but he did add later on. He says he's where did he say it here? Calls him a sponge. wants to learn everything, talking to all types of coaches and the older guys, and just seeing what he can learn and just how to hop on the moving train. So I'm really excited about him, and he's fast. He's just a passionate player. So we've heard how quick he is, and now we've heard how passionate he is, how quickly he's picking things up. So Devin Bush is right on track to hopefully be or looks like to be a week 1 starter.
And speaking of Devin Bush in the rookie class, the Madden 20 rookie ratings were unveiled yesterday for every team, and Devin Bush, unsurprisingly, is the highest rated Steeler in Madden 20, coming in at a 72 overall. I know those numbers are going to seem low across the board, but I do think the Madden this year is trying to commit themselves to kind of having more variance with the ratings. Not everybody's kind of lumped in within 10 degrees of each other, and so I think that's the reason why you've seen some of these rookies be lower than in the past. But the rookie ratings are out. I think, Dave, you have the tweet from yesterday up on your timeline, and I'm sure you're a huge Madden player, so this is probably just this big news to you.
Yeah, I haven't played that in like years. So
what's the last Madden that you played?
Man,
you ever even played Madden before?
Yeah, I have, but it's been years. I wasn't that I didn't have time. I was working all the time there, and I still work now, but I just don't have time to dedicate to it. But you tell me, those numbers are more Greek to me than they are you. You play the game.
Yeah, I'm also not a big Madden guy. I bought this past year's Madden. I didn't like it. I think most people really didn't like the way the game was this year. It does seem like there's some improvements for Madden 20 coming. But yeah. Like I said, they've really kind of changed the way they do some of these rookie ratings. I think Daniel Jones got like a 65 overall as a top 10 pick. So, again, you're seeing these rookies come in lower, but that's kind of the idea. I don't have a real reaction to it. Diontae Johnson, Benny Snell, and Justin Lane were all 69 overall. Sutton Smith 66, Isaiah Bugg 63. The worst drafted rookies, Darren Gray at a 57. It's just funny, Diontae Johnson and Devin Bush have the same speed and acceleration, so that part made me laugh.
What else with the rookies there? Stick out to you in those ratings?
Nothing really, to be honest. I don't really care one way.
They do adjust them as the season goes on, right?
Yeah, I think they do make adjustments and in-season updates, I think. Yeah, for sure, because I think Saquon Barkley was in the 70s to start last year. I think he ended the year at an 85 overall. So, yeah, they will make adjustments, and you would hopefully expect Devin Bush to have that number go up, assuming he plays as much as we think he's going to play.
All right.
They're coming out. There's one company making a football game that's like a simulation base, and I'm going to buy it for you, Dave, whenever they finally release it. And either you're not going to play it at all, or it's just going to ruin your life. It's going to be one of those two things, where it's a super hardcore simulation. It's either going to be your favorite game ever, or you're just going to be like, this is dumb, I'm not going to play it. So,
what don't you like about Madden?
Just the actual gameplay. It's really clunky. It's not a fluid game. It's too animation based. And some of the stuff in franchise mode has just not been upgraded enough. I think they are making some changes this year, but I watch some of these guys that go on YouTube and they have Madden Let's Play videos basically, and one guy couldn't even do his typical franchise video this year because it was just so poorly done. So when you have one game that's the only game on the market, you have kind of a watered down product. So it was not very good.
Oh, and what's the name of the game that you're going to send me?
I don't know if there's an actual name for it yet. The development team is called, I think, Out of the Park Developments. They make a baseball game. I have the baseball version of it. It's a great game. It's simulation-based. You don't actually play the game. You tell the players how to play the game. But, the baseball team, I control the entire Pittsburgh Pirates. It's from the Gulf Coast League with, International Complex all the way up to the Pirates themselves. And so they're making a football game kind of based on it, the same idea. So it should be like a real full text-based hardcore simulation football game, but they keep pushing back the development dates. Supposed to come out this fall, so if it does, I will buy it for you, and we'll see if you can control the Steelers.
So you don't have to have quick thumbs or what?
No, you don't play the game at all. Like in the baseball game, I might tell somebody to swing the bat or intentionally walk somebody, but I don't actually pitch the ball. It's all, and you can just simulate the games if you want to. You don't actually play the games.
Oh, all right. So it's more like a head coach.
It's a strategy game. Yep. Yeah, you're managing basically. You're managing the team. Yep.
Have you ever heard of Stratomatic before?
Vaguely.
That was a big. Stratomatic was huge back when I was a kid. I can remember being, I don't know, 6 or 7 and mail ordering mail order for that game. Basically it was a card. Players had cards, and percentages and a roll of the dice would determine what that player would do. But you play a full baseball game, full 9 inning games, and keep score and all like that with these Stratomatic cards. You ought to research that on pre video game of how we used to entertain. And look, the thing too is it got you going in stats early and that kind of thing. But I can remember that being one of the first kind of I guess simulation games that I was attracted to with sports, when I was a young kid. It was Stratomatic.
Cool. Yeah, this is like Stratomatic, just online. Think of it that way.
All right. Well, I ought to check that out then. I ought to be pretty good at that.
All right, Dave. Where do we want to go to now? We covered Madden. Do you want to talk about? I want to talk about Mike Hilton briefly. Then I want to talk about the quarterback group. I just had an article yesterday for Steelers Depot. We talked about Hilton in the past and his up and down season, and we don't think he's going to get a contract extension with so many other players kind of high up on the priority list. But I do want to point out one thing with Hilton, and I think this was discovered a couple weeks ago that he played at about 80% last year after hyperextending his elbow against Tampa Bay, and I think that's really reflected in his tape. If you go through basically everything, the 3 weeks, 2.5 really, before his elbow injury against Cleveland, a little bit of KC, and then the Tampa game, you saw some really impressive plays from Mike Hilton. So I think if you break down his tape pre-injury, you kind of get the real evaluation of his talent. And then you look at post-injury, and his play suffered. He lost play time. He didn't look like the regular Mike Hilton, but I think you can explain a lot of that away because of that elbow injury.
Yeah, now he did lament, and these were kind of stored quotes that Mike Pursuta had from OTAs that resurfaced this past week. Mike Hilton was kind of still lamenting that touchdown that he gave up against the Oakland Raiders there, and I posted about that, and I also posted that play in there. And look, it didn't take me too long to go back through Game Pass and look, NFL Game Pass, as good as I'm glad they have that search feature now and that filter feature now, but even so, how clunky it is still kind of to drive down into some situations there. I mean, it'd be nice if they added us a yard line and a down and distance filter in that, but even with the limitations of Game Pass aside, it didn't take me too long to drill down to find 3 different runnings of that same play that the Raiders ran. Look, make no mistake about it, and the listeners probably, if they don't know this, they should know this. You get into these offensive coordinators, there's a lot of situational football that goes on, whether, where the ball's located. If you're in the middle of the field between the 40s, down in distance, score of the game, you're gonna probably run a certain group, a group of certain plays more than others. You get inside your own 20-yard line, you're gonna run them, out of certain formations and do certain things more times than others. Conversely, when you get inside the opposition's 5-yard line, you're probably not going to be too varied in those situations, right? I mean, you're going to have the option to run quite a few different plays, but you're going to do so probably out of two personnel groupings and maybe 3 formations, correct?
Yeah, every team's going to have their tendencies, and the closer you get, I think the more those tendencies become revealed.
Now, when you go back through, like I said, it didn't take long to locate 3 different plays where it's really the same play that they scored on against the Raiders there. Now, I ask you this. Now, Hilton said in that interview that he recognized the route and all like that. Well, I don't think he did because the other instances of that play that the Raiders had run earlier in the year, one was against the help me out here, one was against the Colts a few weeks earlier. I think one was against the Broncos, maybe in week 2, and there seemed like there was. Did I post another, or were those the only 2 that I posted there? I can't remember. But I mean, look, it's the same play, and the tight end Everybody runs the same routes in those situations there. Now, how much is that on the coaching, or the player not to? Because he play. Man, this is a tight end too. We're talking about Carrier, a guy that was seldom used in that offense, in that Raiders offense last year. How much is that? How much is that on Hilton, or how much is it on the coaching staff that he overplayed that way too far to the outside, and then that cut back easily went in for a touchdown there?
It just depends if that was something noted in the game plan that week. These are their tendencies in the red zone. This is when they line up in this formation. These are the players they're likely to run. Watch out for this on this down and distance. If that was coached and preached and included, and Hilton just missed it, then that's on Hilton. If it wasn't included or wasn't gone over enough, then that might be more on the coaching staff. So hard to say. But Hilton seems to indicate that he should have made the play. He recognized what was happening. He just didn't execute. So that sounds like it's more on Hilton than the coaches. But maybe he's just saying that because most players aren't going to outright bash their coaches.
Right. But, look, I mean, we could take, if we have given enough time, we could go back through and find instances of every play that goes wrong, or that's not played right by the defense, right? Sure.
So I'm not too worried about assigning blame, especially here in July. I just know that they should have made the play and they didn't, and they should have won the game when they didn't.
Right. I mean, what a huge play that was too. If they get the stop there, that's it, right? 4th down.
Yeah, and they probably make the playoffs, assuming everything else is the same.
Right. So look, I'm don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking Hilton here. I just think that, man, if they had been a little bit better prepared in that situation, and him saying that he saw that route before, he saw a different route because the tendency, the tendencies early. But, it just goes to show you, too, it makes it tough to kind of study some of these teams because if given some time, I could probably go back and find maybe one or two more instances of the Raiders running that play. But, they weren't overly in the red zone a lot last year, right? Or at least, and that's the type of play that you're probably going to run from, 6 yards and in, 7 yards or in. You're not going to have a lot of instances. Now, of course, I didn't go back and check to see if they ran that in short yardage situations somewhere else on the field. I just, streamlined it down that low. And how many times they may have ran out of that same formation, I don't know that either there. But, I mean, for us to easily go and drill down Game Pass to find that, I don't know. I found it a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there were big issues with the coaching and the recognition and the game plan last year. I mean, you won't get an argument out of me from that. But my overall point with Hilton is just I thought whenever he was healthy very, very early in the year, he had a good camp, good preseason, really strong week 1 performance, did well against Tampa. When he was healthy, he played well. And so I know now knowing he's healthy for 2019, I think he's going to come back to his old reliable Mike Hilton self. That's the point I wanted to make.
Well, he's one of those guys that we've been talking about. Is he going to get a contract extension this offseason? And I ranked the 5 players that I think have the best shot at getting extensions later. Moving on later on this summer. Obviously, that list is Joe Hayden, Javon Hargrave, B.J. Finney, Sean Davis, and Mike Hilton. I have Mike Hilton now at the bottom of that list of 5. And we kind of discussed this recently. I just think that the cards are stacked against him, Hilton, when it comes to potentially getting a new contract this summer.
I agree. Is that your ranking? Do you have Finney above Davis?
Actually, I think I do. I think I do.
disagree. I don't think there's any chance Finney gets done. I don't know what compelling reason Finney would want to have a deal done now. I would have ranked Davis above. I don't think Davis has a great chance to get it done, but I think he's definitely above Finney.
I think the line stops at guys that I'd almost slam dunk on at Hayden and Hargrave.
Yeah.
Then the other 3, talking about Finney, Davis, and
Davis has to have a better chance than Finney.
No, and that's why I ranked it as a better chance and priority together. Okay, and that's because I believe because of Finney's asking price might be lower. That's why I have him rated than lower than or higher than Davis with the priority and probability factor. Because
okay.
I wonder with Davis if he's going to be looking at these safeties that got signed and want that top 12, 15. Sure. money, and that's just going to be kind of tough to justify that,
Sure.
and really look. What has he showed us? He's got one season as a free safety, and to me, you just got to see a little bit more than that. And so that's why I have Finney. Not that I think Finney gets done, but I think there's a better chance of Finney getting done than Davis.
Okay. No, I mean, I wrote the article that I think this is a huge year for Davis, and I would not extend Davis now. And I agree with those points. I could see at least Davis wanting to get a deal done, the team wanting to get a deal done. I can't see Finney wanting to get a deal done now because he's going to take cheaper money when he could hit the market next year and have a chance to start somewhere and make a lot more money. I don't see any reason why Finney would be incentivized to do a deal today.
And talking about players and contracts, I also wrote up on Sunday, I think, looking ahead into next offseason, the guys that are most likely to get deals done at some point during the offseason. Really, this article was kind of more, which ones have a chance maybe way before, training camp gets underway next year. Now, obviously, not all these guys are going to get deals done, but this is the short list of players that have a chance to get deals done by, let's say, the start of the new league year in March. Cameron Hayward leads the list. And look, anytime now, I have a feeling that we're going to learn about Cameron Hayward getting a contract structure redone or contract structure done to free up a little bit of cap money for the Steelers. And look, you can get that restructure done, and especially under the assumption that you're going to get him signed to a new deal earlier rather than later next offseason there. So I think Cameron Hayward leads the short list of candidates that could get extensions done less than, and this is how I framed it, less than a year from now. And I don't think I'd get an argument out of you with having Cameron Hayward at the top of that list, right?
Yep, none whatsoever.
The other, James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster. CBA rules dictate that the Steelers cannot touch can't negotiate contract extensions with either of those two players until immediately after the 2019 season ends. From that point forward, game on then. And both Juju and James Conner will be entering the final year of their rookie contracts next year. Now, will either of those two be able to get deals done prior to the start of the new league year in March? I don't know. Probably not, right? I mean, the urgency is not there to do it, I don't think, before the start of the new league year. So will we see one of those guys potentially by this same time next year get a new deal, Alex, or will we still be waiting?
I think it'll be roughly the same time, maybe somewhere in the summer. I think with Juju, just probably take some time to get a deal hammered out, so I don't think it's going to happen right away, and it is something that probably just can frankly wait compared to everything else that happens in the offseason. So I think about a year from now, maybe a little bit more than that, then you'll get a deal done with Juju. It will get done, though. I'm 100% confident that it will get done.
Are you 100% confident Connor will get done?
Like 98% confident it will get done. I guess we'll see how this year goes. Maybe there's another injury that may spook the team a little bit or change the conversation, but I believe it will get done. Yeah.
What about the last person I have on that list, Alejandro Villanueva?
Yeah, I think you want to get him extended too. I don't want him to wait until, sitting there real close to free agency. He's going to command so much money on the market. I know he's a little bit older, but frankly, that doesn't bother me one bit. He's been remarkably durable. He's got his career started later. Lyman can play a while. I don't want any of those guys to get anywhere near free agency.
He will turn 31 in September. Talking about Villanueva, he might decide that he wants one more bite of the apple here. And if he does, and if he has, is he criminally underrated? I feel like he is.
He's criminally underpaid. So whenever he comes back to the table, he's going to ask for a ton of money, as he should.
Right. I mean, he's going to be, if he gets a new deal next year, he's going to be top 10, maybe even top 5 paid left tackle in the league. I still read some of the comments that we get sometimes when we post about him. I think it's people that are bitter that thought that he never turned into anything. I think he's criminally underrated, man, as a starting left tackle.
He's a good one. So if anyone doesn't think he's a really good left tackle, then sure, I think he is underrated. He probably doesn't get the recognition league wide, I bet. I think most people just kind of view him with his story and his time in the military and Army Ranger and all that, and less of a focus on him as a tackle. But I mean, the reason why he's so cheap right now is because he was an RFA, and so he got that money just to get under the RFA tag. That won't be the case this time around. He'll be real close to free agency, and you'll have to pay him accordingly. So he's going to cash in for, I don't know what the number is going to be, but it's going to be a lot.
He's not the technician that Joe Thomas was, but damn, you can see his wheels clicking. That's snatch and trap, and man, I love watching him use that handwork and all. And he's done it against some of the better pass rushers in the game already as well too.
Yeah, he varies his sets really well, and that's important too, because if you're setting the same ways to tackle every single time, you're just vertical setting or kick slide or the same thing over and over again, defenders are going to find a way to beat you. They're going to get used to what you do. But he'll short set some guys, he'll jump set guys, and use his power and his strength on a strike to surprise some people, and then he'll sit back on his heels and vertical set and kick set, and then he'll jump set you again. So he likes to keep you guessing as a pass rusher.
You think he'll play at least 4 more years?
Yes.
Okay, good. I wouldn't mind that either.
Because there's no wear and tear. When did he start playing football with Pittsburgh? I mean, he was with the Eagles the camp before. How old was he? 27, 26?
Yeah, it was late for sure.
Sure. Yeah. So there isn't that. Yeah, I know he's older, but there's no mileage. He didn't come into the league as a 22-year-old that's got 10 years in the NFL that destroyed his knees the way that it did Joe Thomas. So he can. I mean, I assume he takes really good care of his body, so he should be fine.
All right, where to from here? We talked about contracts now. Yep. What up?
Last topic before reader email is just to kind of overview the quarterback position, starting to kind of, because we're in July. I mean, camp is 23 days away, whatever the number is. I mean, we're right up to it here. So we're going to go through our camp preview with the quarterback position today. A little less to talk about there. Ben, don't expect to see much of him in camp or preseason. Maybe a quarter, probably in that third game. I'd kind of like to see the first half, but we'll see how that goes. He'll get some days off in camp, but Ben will be Ben, and as long as Seven is healthy, then it's been a good camp for him.
I would agree.
Yep, not much to be said there.
Yeah, not much to talk about there. All right, did you finish up what you wanted to say about Mike Hilton?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I thought when he was healthy last year, he played really well, and that a healthy Mike Hilton in 2019 should return him to what we saw 2 years ago and saw him too briefly last year before that elbow injury.
All right, what do you make of what's going on with Kareem Hunt over the weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. There's not a lot of concrete stuff about this bar incident. If you haven't heard, I'm not sure even what the whole scenario is. So I'm hesitant to comment on anything because I want to see the full details. It doesn't sound like anything's going to happen with him, but I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to it, to be honest with you.
I mean, look, how many times do you need to see the smoke coming from? There's usually fires there,
Yeah. Yeah, but I just don't know. I mean,
yeah.
There's been no. Yeah, he wasn't arrested, right? He wasn't charged with anything, so maybe it's something, maybe it's nothing. I guess I'll wait.
What do you think about Ben Roethlisberger going to possibly become the all-time most sacked quarterback in 2019?
Yeah, well, 5 years ago, I thought he either would have broken the record by then or wouldn't have broken it at all because he would have been out of the league. So the fact that he's still around is almost a good thing. I'm almost, in a sense, happy that he's going to break this record because that means he's still playing. And, Brett Favre has some of those interceptions. Is he the leader in interceptions in a career? So that just comes with playing as long as they have.
Right, and there's an outside chance of it. I mean, look, he was sacked, 24 times last year? And really with the number of times that he dropped back, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot. And I wrote this in that article as well, too. That was the fewest times Roethlisberger's been sacked in a full 16-game season last year, when he played in all 16 games. So, 24, if he's sacked 24 or less times in 2019, that's grounds for a parade.
Yeah, and because he's going to be throwing the ball a lot less too, so you think that number should come down. If you can beat there in the 20s. Somebody made the comment, made me laugh, that Deshaun Watson's going to break it in 10 years, which was kind of feels pretty true. with the way the Texans are building their offensive line.
What about Lamar Jackson too? He take a lot of it. Seems like.
I don't know how much was he sacked last year. I don't even know what his sack
How much
number
was? Maybe it was.
Because I mean, you think he's running out of half the sacks he runs into.
All right, what else do we have?
Well, I was going to go through the rest of the quarterbacks and just kind of give the camp preview on those guys. Lamar Jackson sacked 16 times last year for 7 games started. That is a pretty high rate, almost sacked as much as Ben in 170 attempts. But with the quarterbacks, you got the big storyline here, obviously, is Mason Rudolph versus Josh Dobbs. And we've talked about it a lot, so we don't have to spend much time on it. But just number one thing you're looking for from Josh Dobbs and number one thing you're looking for with Mason Rudolph. What are your thoughts?
Boy, just want to see, like we talked about recently with Rudolph. You want to see noticeable progression. You want to see him do a better job. You want to see that arm strength. You want to see the velocity. You want to see him drive that football down the field. Be able to make better decisions with the football. And look, I mean, this is a guy that I think we should really be buzzing about come the end of the preseason there. I mean, that's why you thought that you had a first round grade on him. That's why you traded up in the couple spots in the third round to get him where you did. I had a blast going through his career tape at Oklahoma State. Really, to me, showed the makings of potentially being that guy, and you just expect to see that huge step, and most definitely he should be the noticeably better quarterback, in my opinion, than Joshua Dobbs. Now, as far as Dobbs goes, man, I think we've seen the ceiling, personally.
You think we've seen the ceiling?
I think we've seen the ceiling with him.
I don't know. I still think there's a little ways to go. I don't think he's going to develop into a starter, but I think there's improvement to be made. It's only his third year, and he didn't get too many reps as a rookie year.
Yeah, I think we've seen. Let's see, what does he need to do better?
Accuracy across the board.
Absolutely accuracy.
So and those are things that I know might not be the easiest things to improve, but just some of the easy plays that he could make. I think just some of the technique stuff that probably can be cleaned up to improve his accuracy. Just making the easy play. I thought there were times where he missed out on the easy play last year where I think Rudolph took the easy play a lot, and you want to see him probably make the more difficult play. Dobbs is sort of the opposite, where he wants to make every difficult play and doesn't always either take or hit the easy play, the underneath route, the check down, just the real simple play that's got to be made.
How much, excuse me, how much do people, it seems like people take that one play against the Patriots last year, that conversion, and put too much stock in that. I guess that was the question I was trying to form before I got choked up there. Is
which play?
The one against the Ravens, the one where he came in.
Oh, okay. You said Patriots, and okay.
I'm sorry.
The 22 yard. That was a great play, though.
It was a great play, but how much? I mean, that one play seems to carry too much stock right now with him.
Well, I don't know about that. I think people kind of remember the Oakland game just as much. That Oakland game, obviously, he struggled mightily, and I know that's a tough spot to be on the road, off the bench, but that's what you do as a backup quarterback. That's how the job description goes. You just come in on a moment's notice, and that was a pretty brutal game for him, unfortunately.
And the number 4 kid?
Devlin Hodges?
Right.
Interesting.
You've talked a little bit about him already.
Yeah, I like the profile. Won the job as a tryout, beat out Brogan Roback. Athletic guy. I think he's going to make some plays in the preseason. He was a prolific passer at Samford. Broke Steve McNair's FCS passing record. He had a great season. I think he won whatever the equivalent of the Heisman is, the FCS level, I think, or one of the big offensive awards. Even punted a little bit, too. He kind of has a Ben-ish background. So they liked something in tryouts to earn a roster spot. Just how much is he going to play? Because obviously Ben's not going to play a lot, but he's going to get work in camp. He's going to throw the ball probably 140, 150 times. You got Rudolph and Dobbs. Those guys have to play a lot, Rudolph especially. How much left is there for Hodges? Last year you had Landry Jones basically sitting out the spring or the summer because you knew what you had Landry Jones. There wasn't a whole lot you had to see. So you kind of had really only 3 quarterbacks working last year. This year, as Hodges as the 4, there's no one going to be sitting out, and that's going to be really tough for Hodges just to get the reps to improve and make mistakes, learn from them, and try to show something to these coaches.
He might be lucky to get 50 preseason snaps, right?
Yeah, he'll probably get some in the fourth game, play the quarter and a half. Outside of that, he might get a drive or two, and he'll throw the ball maybe 100 or so times in the in training camp. So reps are going to be limited, unfortunately, for him. But I think he'll make one or two big plays because he's got a good athletic profile.
That was my next question was: are we going to have some eye raising? Hey, what about that?
Well, I think
Moments.
anytime you have a quarterback and he's athletic, you kind of someone's going to talk about him. But he's not making the 53. Obviously, even with an injury, I'm not sure if he makes the 53. I think either you go outside the organization or maybe you make the case to keep two quarterbacks. But yeah, again, like I said, I think he'll make one or two kind of, like you said, eye-raising level plays.
All right, on the Friday show, we're efforting to get our buddy John Eisenberg to talk about the Ravens. You want to
Do we have
go?
any reader emails?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to go
Okay.
through
Yep.
through the email machine here?
Yep. Let's just hit up two.
Adam Bendis writes in, "Hi, Dave and Alex here, and you talk about Hargrave. Last episode got me thinking about the 3-3-5. The Steelers won't play it, but what advantages do you think it would give the Steelers on defense? To me, it seems like it would use our strength in the D-line to an advantage and keep and free up Hayward into it."
Well, they did play it last year in the
Sure.
Bengals game. 15 or so snaps. Now, will it happen this year? It's hard to say when you add so much talent inside linebacker because the way the 3-3-5 worked, you had your three defensive linemen. You kept both outside linebackers on the field, so Watt and Dupree, and you had only one inside linebacker. That was probably their way of just trying to manage and overcome the lack of talent and depth at inside linebacker last year by just having one of those guys on the field. Now that you have Barron and Bush and Vince obviously still here, you're looking for ways to get all those guys on the field. So it might be harder to envision the 3-3-5, but obviously there's benefits. I think you're not playing nickel. You're having somebody over center. The centers and the guards they can't climb as easily to the second level. Obviously you get Javon Hargrave on the field. You get his talent out there. We know what he brings to the table. So could they mix it in? Sure. Will it be used as much as maybe I thought early in the offseason when the inside linebacker position was still so uncertain? Probably not, but I think it is a good kind of change up and obviously a very good way to get Javon Hargrave onto the field.
Yeah, and maybe this is a year too that if they don't go that route, that maybe they can just get Javon Hargrave on the field just to give Hayward and Tuitt a couple extra snaps off.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Yep.
in some pass rush, late game situations where teams are running at no huddle against you. Maybe those are situations where you can get him
Well,
on.
I don't know. I want Hayward into it, and if they're running no huddle, it's hard to make a sub. So it'd be tough.
Yeah, it will be tough, but maybe you can get him in there, sneak him in there on some
Mm-hmm.
situations. Other than that, look, this is a guy we talked about. We just talked about too, and guys that might get a contract there. You kind of wonder if they're going to be able to get something done with Hargrave.
Yeah, I'm hopeful, but I'm not optimistic, if that makes sense.
From Andrew writes in, do you guys believe Ben can spread AB's 104 catches among everyone? It's a three-part question here, so hold up here. Do you guys believe Ben can spread AB's 104 catches among everyone who's left? Number two, do you think Ben's red zone percentage will get better without forcing the ball to AB? And number three, how many TDs has AB caught from someone other than Ben? Why don't you handle the first two, and I'll effort the last one.
All right. Will he spread it around? Yeah, I think they can do that. I think the onus will be on Randy Fichtner to be a lot more creative this year. I think he'll really have to step up his game and find ways to get the right matchups and to help scheme receivers open. When you have AB and Juju, you kind of just let the guys do their thing, and you know they're going to get open. But now that AB's gone, all the attention goes to Juju. It'll be up to Fichtner to be a lot more creative. I just think they'll throw the football less. They're not throwing the ball 700 times the way they did last year, so that will help mitigate the need to literally take 104 receptions and spread it around. I know that's probably not the way that you meant in that question, but so I think those things will help. But yeah, short answer is yes. I think they'll find a way to spread the love. You still have Ben, you still have a lot of weapons. I thought Fichtner did a nice job as OC last year, so that won't be a concern. The second question was, I know you're in your efforting phase, Dave. What was the second part of that question?
The second part of that question is, do you think Ben's red zone percentage will get better without
Right.
forcing the ball to AB?
Yeah, I think that it will be better. I have an article coming out for Wednesday on Steelers Depot that says, really, I expect this red zone offense to remain number one in the NFL, even without Antonio Brown. And the reason is because if even though you lose some from AB, this team turned the ball over so much in the red zone last year. Ben threw 4 picks. They turned the football over 6 times. That was, I think, the 6th highest rate in football. And so if you just turn the ball over less, it will help cancel out whatever you'll lose from Antonio Brown. So at the worst, this should be a top 5 red zone offense in 2019. And really, I think it has the potential to still remain the best red zone offense in football. And that was the biggest thing Fichtner did last year. He helped take this red zone offense that always struggled under Haley and Arians, and it just never got to where it needed to be, and turned it into a historically good red zone offense last year, best since the 03 Chiefs. So short answer, yes, Ben should be better in the red zone.
I think it could go backwards. I mean, to some degree. I don't know what. I think it's going to be tough to reach those numbers, those red zone conversion.
Why? Well, if they turn the ball over less, they should be fine, right?
Yeah, those were some nice numbers.
No, they were. Yeah, I mean, you might have a little regression to the mean because it's just hard to be historically good 2 years in a row.
And that's what I'm getting at. There's just going to be some sort of regression there. I mean, look, if they can get close to that, great.
Okay, but do you think they'd be top 5 red zone offense? Is that your expectation?
I mean, I think they could be right up in there. I just
You're not too confident about it?
Yeah, I'm not as confident as you are.
All right, I think they'll be. I think that's where the expectation needs to be, at least top 5. The talent's still there to do it.
Antonio Brown has.
Let me guess. I'm going to say he has 0 from anybody else.
He has 74 total touchdowns receiving, correct? Yes.
Oh.
Okay, he has 74 receiving touchdowns. How many came from Ben Roethlisberger?
I think it's all 74.
You would be wrong.
Oh, who's the other? Who did Batch throw him one way back when?
Nope.
Vic?
I would have never guessed. This is a good question. I would never guess this.
Really? Is it someone?
I forgot about this.
I'm thinking, was it some sort of trick play that I'm not thinking of? I don't know.
You are correct, sir.
Who had the trick play? Like Manny Sanders? I don't know.
Lance Moore.
Lance Moore threw it. What? You made that up, Dave.
I'm not making that up.
You made that up. When was that? Well, it's only played 1 year, so 2013 or whatever year Lance Moore played.
It was, let's see here.
2014.
Did they even have his passing here? They don't even have it. I mean, they're showing this in
2014 because that was the year Moore played for the Steelers.
Do you remember the game though?
Lance Moore? Because I'm looking at his Pro Football page. You only have him down for 1 career pass attempt in 2008 with New Orleans, and it was picked.
That's or maybe they're showing. No, that was. I'm sorry, Antonio Brown throwing the pass to Lance Moore. That's what it is.
Okay.
I'm reading the stats wrong here. I think. Hold on a minute here.
All right.
I didn't. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. My bad. I didn't drill out the pass attempts on Antonio Brown. I see 74 here. And it's receiving, what it is from Roethlisberger, has thrown 73, and Antonio Brown has 73 receptions. Wait a minute, it does, hold on.
Dave, you really
No, because I'm looking here,
here.
they've got a difference in total touchdown receptions here. They have Antonio Brown down for 74 total touchdown receptions, and it's showing in this other filtered way just 73 in touchdowns. And
are they counting returns?
I think they're.
Well, he's got more than, I think, 1 return.
Because if you drill down, I think Pro Football Reference is missing something here.
Yeah, I'm looking at it briefly. I have Ben throwing 73 touchdowns. AB has a touchdown pass. No other quarterback has thrown him a touchdown. No one else has thrown AB a touchdown.
And then click on Antonio Brown's name by itself, and you see 74 touchdown receptions.
Okay.
See?
Let me look here. Yeah, 74.
You see where I'm...
Yep, they have him 73. Yeah, there's a discrepancy here. Do they have his passing touchdown down?
That's in receiving, and they have his passing touchdown down. So I don't know where to describe. Maybe there is a.
I don't think any of the quarterback, because I'm pretty sure I've seen someone tweet that out or read that stat before, that AB's caught all of his touchdowns from Ben.
This is let's see here. I wonder if we can. It would show up in this other way. I don't know. We'll have to find out what that missing touchdown is. But that threw me off there.
Yeah, the Pro Football Reference can be weird. I'm looking at some of this stuff and it's confusing me. So
don't get on me. You owe me an apology.
who me?
Yeah. You
No,
said
I didn't do it.
Dave.
You're the confusing me, telling me I think Lance Moore threw a touchdown pass to AB. I'm thinking, am I going insane?
Yeah, I couldn't remember that one either when it first hit my head there. Okay, Andrew, we'll try to research that down even further, but there's a discrepancy, it seems like, in Pro Football Reference on one touchdown there. So let's see here from Douglas Clay, longtime listener since 2011 season. I've run into Alex a couple times at Latrobe. Do you know Douglas Clay? I have a question for each of you. Alex, how do you know if players are being accurate with their professed injuries from last season? Beyond being listed on the injury report, it seems as if you have to accept their version of "I played with a torn pec" to excuse poor performance. I'm old enough to remember Ben's broken toes under Cowher, so why do you buy Bud Dupree and Mike Hilton's excuses for poor play absent a medical report? I happen to believe Hilton and doubt Bud, but that's just me.
Well, I think if you start playing that game of believing one guy and doubting the other, you start running into your own biases. And is it because we just don't want to give Dupree that excuse? We want to give Hilton that excuse? I'm not saying that's the case, but I think that's stuff I think you just have to trust what they say. Maybe, I don't know if they're being accurate. I don't know. Obviously, I don't have the medical records, but if we can't talk about a medical situation unless we have their medical records, which I believe violates a lot of HIPAA laws, then we can't talk about medical ever. So I take these guys at face value. I trust that they're not trying to search for an excuse, and that they're not going to let it be an excuse in itself. But I just trust when they talk about an injury to their body that they're being mostly honest. That's just my philosophy, I guess.
Yeah, I was thinking about that whole HIPAA thing and the way Tomlin handled that Marquise Pouncey thing a couple years ago, and I wonder how much that played into it. I was thinking about because wasn't that an infection and all like that? And
yeah, he had like 7 surgeries after that.
And I mean, is that perhaps why Tomlin was so kind of secretive about it the entire time? Because maybe he would have broken some laws to talk about an infection and stuff like that. Unless the player did first.
Yeah, maybe. I think he just also wanted to be out of respect to Pouncey and what he was going through in that moment, and wanted to kind of let him have his privacy. I'm trying to think. Did Dupree say that he had a torn pec muscle, or did somebody else? I think Dupree did say that he did. But I trust that he's not. I trust whenever he says he has a torn pec, he's not healthy. Like, he's not outright lying. What's the degree of the torn pec? I don't know. Obviously, I can't know. But I think it's fair to assume that he's not completely healthy and just outright lying, trying to look for an excuse to get the media off his back.
Second part of the question is for me. He says, I asked you about this 5 years ago, and your response was that you didn't have the manpower I think you do now with the talent associated with your site. Wouldn't it be interesting to go back to Dave T. Thomas reports from 3 to 4 years ago and follow up on his prognostications? Remember him touting Chickalo and Brian Allen, but he is such a fire hose of information that it would take time to break all of his opinions down and then see if the players he thought would be bust were in fact bust, and once he was high on went on to find NFL success. Would love to see where are Dave T's picks now featured during a slow period. Love the show, never miss an episode. Look, I don't have the energy or really to want to go back. I mean, we all no doubt Dave T is a favorite on the show. We're going to continue having him on the show until the end of time, or to the end of the show, whichever one comes first. And I mean, he rattles things off so quick, and we even doing the interview with Dave T, you have to go back and re-listen to it to even catch all that he said.
Mm-hmm.
And even sometimes that's not even enough there. I mean, look, he gets stuff right, he gets stuff wrong, just like the rest of us when it comes to this stuff. So, look, I don't think it's worth spending the manpower to track that kind of stuff. I don't know, Alex. How do you feel on that?
Yeah, no offense, Douglas. I don't have the desire to go back through Dave T's catalog because it would be exhaustive to do so. But the archives are there. I mean, you can go back and listen to the Dave T podcast and the Terrell podcast from 4 or 5 years ago, and you can hear, and just get a baseline idea of some of the stuff he said and compare that to now. But it's not going to be useful for my time or for the site to catalog that stuff, because I think people look at it and go, oh, that's kind of interesting, and then that's it. And I've spent 3 days of my summer doing that, and that's not what I want to do right now before camp starts.
Alex, we asked people to send in their 5 new Hall of Fame, Hall of Honor suggestions, so I want to make sure we shout out those guys. Tom Hoy writes in, hello, my 5 for the Steelers Hall of Honor would be Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Casey Hampton, parentheses, love that guy. Heath Miller, either Coach Cowher or Coach LeBeau. Thanks. P.S. Have you mentioned or are you aware that Ben is coming closer to the all-time sacks record? Yeah, we just mentioned that he currently has 500. Don't know if that'll happen this year, but it will happen. How do you look at that? Scrambling passer, running into trouble, passer just trying to make time to make play. Look, Ben has always been one to try to be a gunslinger, extend the play. The funny thing about it is he's currently number 3 on that list behind both Favre and John Elway, and John Elway was kind of one of the guys that Ben looked up to. So not surprising that Elway is ahead of Ben, and not surprised that that Ben is closing in on the record, especially with those early years with Arians. Hold on to the ball as long as you can, try to make a play. Now, obviously, we've seen Ben's snap to throw times. In fact, it was second lowest in the NFL last year. But even so, Ben tries to make enough plays, and you would expect him to, that he's going to take at least 25 to 30 sacks on a season there. So, Tom, thanks for your suggestions of the 5 Steelers there. Hard to go against any of those guys. Michael A. Carlson writes in with his Hall of Honor suggestions as well, too. Love the show. Scarcely miss an episode, whether in the U.S., Italy, or the Czech Republic. You guys travel well. Michael, sounds like you're the one doing the traveling there, brother. I've enjoyed Alex's analysis and training camp participation for years now, but he has also really grown into a co-host role well also. Well done, Alex, and get in Dave's grill a little bit more. You're not getting my grill enough. I think you're getting my grill plenty. Love the banter and debate.
Appreciate that.
Michael, I don't know if you heard some of the I think the debates that we had about Devin Bush and who else? Who else did we break down kind of thoroughly during the pre-draft process, Alex? I thought those are some of the best stuff that we've ever put down on a Terrible Podcast before.
Yeah, you forgot about the Devin Bush concerns you had real quick once they turned in that draft card, didn't you?
No, I still have the same concerns about whether or not he's going to make plays.
I haven't heard those in a while.
The playmaking. The thing, and I pointed this out too, was and this is one thing that is not stat notated, is the kind of the plays out to the edge that go for 1 or 2 yards. The stuff that, and I made a point to saying this too, and I think you maybe forgot, is that time and time again I said you see the athleticism on the tape. You see the sideline aspect of Devin Bush. My whole preface about him was the statistical playmaking thing. If you go back and you listen, I think that's the primary thing that you see. That, along with being slightly undersized there, But on tape, and I made it a point to say this several times again with him, was you saw the tape, the sideline to sideline playmaking thing. And the thing that I think that going back through his tape more after he was drafted was the fact that you indeed have to give more credence to the run stop, or the stops, okay? The stop plays, the things like against, who was it, Indiana, the play against Ohio State down near the goal line where he scrapes over the top of the tight end. You just have to count those more into the overall evaluation. And like I said right from the get-go with the statistical thing, you can go back and debunk the things Vander Esch did at Boise State. Not a big statistical playmaker at Boise State when it came to things that are counted in the statistics. However, you go back and you watch his rookie season and say, man, that's a fine ball player right there.
Yeah, no, I got what you're saying. I'm just razzing it a little bit. But yeah, I think Bush will make some of the plays that he didn't make in college.
And that's what I'm hoping to see. Are we going to see the interceptions? Are we going to see the and Tom Mead has a post up yesterday of Devin Bush in coverage that I think is worth everybody's time to go back and check out there. But until he does start making more statistical play, stat sheet plays, it's going to be a part of the debate, I think.
Yeah, but I look at Shazier. He had one pick in college and picked off 1 million passes in the NFL, so I think it can translate.
Now, one thing I would expect is we saw Devin Bush register those sacks, at Michigan, and you would think him being such a good north-south player and him being able to squeeze through some of those inside gaps that he was able to get squeezed through at Michigan, that he would, that he'll be able to do the same thing there. Who was it? Kendrell Bell had what, 8 or 9 sacks during his rookie season. If Bush is going to win Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, you're going to have to see those sacks, I think.
Yep, make the splash. All right, Dave, give us 1 or 2 more Hall of Fame votes that we're giving it.
He was also saying, I was wondering if L.C. Greenwood is already in the Hall of Honor. Yeah, he's not. Was he on that list?
I'd have to look. I don't remember, to be honest.
Let's see here. You mentioned Tunch. I love his broadcasting work, but I didn't know him as a player. What kind of qualifications does he have, and do you think he could make? If Tunch makes the Hall of Honor, bless his heart, to be as a broadcaster there.
He was his best tackle of the '80s, pretty much.
Yeah, I think he'd struggle to get in as a player.
I think you can look at Greenwood is in the Hall of Honor, inducted 2017 in the inaugural class.
And Randy Fichtner, one last one. Dennis Wright writes in, Randy Fichtner's offense. I was impressed with what Coach Fichtner was able to do with the Steelers' offense in 2018, especially in the red zone. Can you talk about the expectations you have for the offense in 2019 under Fichtner scheme-wise? For example, I know you both would like to see more play action. Oh, hell yeah. Anything else that you hope to see when camp gets started?
I could talk for an hour about that, and that's something I'll certainly be looking at. I think, like I said a couple minutes ago, Fichtner's task will be obviously keeping the red zone offense as good as it was last year, or thereabout. Top 5 is what we're looking for, worst case scenario. But just trying to scheme guys open. I think being more creative with Juju, finding ways to get some of the matchups off of him and get some of the double teams off of him, using some of those pick and bunch plays that they used a lot last year to get Juju open and get him in space. And just, again, like I said, trying to help scheme guys open, because when you have AB, when you have Juju, when you have Ben, life's kind of easy as an offensive coordinator. And obviously, he's still got a lot of weapons to work with. You still have a really good group of talent, but it's going to be tougher this year. So I think Fichtner's going to have to respond to the challenge of being a little more creative in how he wins and how the passing offense works. That'll be his number one task.
More switch routes. I'd like to see more switch route combinations. I'd like to see play action for sure. I'd like to see him build more off of what he already has. I mean, and I'm willing to bet Ben and him have spent a lot of time talking about that. You can still take those formations and plays that you used last year in your first year and build off of them. Maybe a different combination, route combination, just things to change it up a little bit more. And, by the way, watch a lot of Sean McVay tape.
Yeah, well, that's good advice for any coach, I think, at this point.
Absolutely. I thought overall Randy did a great job. We already talked about the red zone, the great red zone percentages that they have. They could come anywhere close to that again this year. Fantastic there. But just a little nuance. Look, they're going to struggle. I think they're going to struggle to make some big plays down the field. More than 15 yards down the field in the air without Ben having to extend plays. So I'd like to see, be able to maybe scheme something a little bit better. Maybe some double moves, maybe a little bit more stutter and goes or something to get some guys open there. But good questions there. Good questions overall. Alex and I will get back at it again on Friday. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com, hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com, go to the site, hit the ad-free button, and for $25, you'll have a year's access to the site ad-free. And we'll be back again later on this week. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.